What's going on, YouTube family? Today we're going to be talking about shady mechanics and auto repair scams. Let's get into it. So unfortunately, everybody has a story about either getting ripped off by a mechanic or their friend or family member has. And this is something that's always coming up every few months, and I get asked about it all the time. How do I protect myself? What should I look for? So today I'm going to tell you not only how to protect yourself, some of the signs you need to look out for, and also some tools that will actually be insurance for your wallet. So I think every American should know a little bit about the car that they're driving. I recommend everybody take time to go to YouTube and watch a video about how an internal combustion engine works. This is very important. If you watch this video, like I said, you don't have to be a master mechanic, you don't have to fix cars, but you just need to know how the motor actually works and functions to help you determine if the mechanic is basically lying to you, which I'll tell you here in a little bit. And a tool that I think every American should own is an OBD2 scanner. Now, this is very important. It's going to save you a lot of money. Now, let's just say you're driving down the road one day and you hit a pothole and all of a sudden your check engine light comes on. Now you're thinking, oh man, I broke something, I hurt my car. What did I do? You take your scanner, you plug it in, you see what the codes are. You take a picture of your phone and then you clear the codes. Now, clearing your codes doesn't fix the problem, but what we're going to be doing is it's going to allow us to test to see if the codes come back up. If you're driving right away and it pops up, then we know we have a hard fault. If it takes a little while and it pops up again, then we know that there's actually something there. So you don't have to basically drive your car into a shop and pay $100 just for him to clear the light and say you're good to go. So now you have a $200 tow plus a $100 diag fee. You just saved yourself $300 with a cheap OBD2 scanner. Another reason why is that a lot of the new cars have so much sensors and so much technology where if you get low voltage, you have a cylinder misfire, or if you have a knock sensor kick, you will go into what's called limp mode, where the car will not go over 20 miles an hour. This is very common. And so if you're driving your car and all of a sudden you go into limp mode and you're 50 miles away from your house, if at least you have a cheap OBD2 scanner, you can pull over, you can clear the light, see if it comes back on, but at least you'll go back up to driving regular speeds. If you drive it and then the limp mode comes back on, then you know that maybe there might be an issue. Let's go ahead and pull over and tow the car. But it's at least a backup to keep you safe if something like this happens. Another thing is it helps keep the mechanics honest. So if you plug in your scanner and it's telling you that, hey, you have a vacuum leak on your car, you know, take a picture of that when you take it to the shop and you're like, hey, there's a check engine light on my car, I need something. And he looks at your car and tells you, oh, you know what you need? You need a new transmission. And you're like, well, not really, because I just, checked it and it said I needed a vacuum leak. There's some sort of vacuum leak on my car. Can you check that instead of checking my transmission? More than likely, I would tell you to take your car and get out of there. But at least you have a little bit of an angle and you could see if the mechanic will be honest with you. So a lot of people think that they get ripped off by mechanics because they don't know enough about auto repair. That is somewhat true, but I think majority is the reasons why. They don't set the example and they don't ask enough questions. And I'll give you a few examples of this. So if you're going to take your car in and you're like, hey man, my car's got a check engine light, I got to get to work, I need it fixed ASAP, let me know. And so you just drop off your car. As a mechanic or as an automotive repair shop, if I hear somebody say that, like, I just want to get it fixed, we're just going to fix the car. So if it costs $150 or it costs $550, I'll just do it and then let you know and then get you back on the road. Now, if your inclination was to say, hey, I just want to get it checked out, now you did yourself a disservice and now you have a $500 repair bill that maybe you can't afford, and now your car's stuck in the shop till you can pay it. So what I recommend doing is if you go up to a shop, say, hey, look, my check engine light came on, I need you to diagnose it. If it goes over an hour, I need you to call me for some sort of verbal confirmation if you find out what's wrong and for approval. If you set that right there, you won't have any issues. Most times they'll say, okay, no problem. They'll look at the car, they'll call you, tell you what the issues are, instead of just going ahead, fixing it, or throwing a bunch of stuff on the bill. It's very, very important. The next example is asking questions. Now, a lot of people don't ask enough questions of their mechanic. So if you come into me and you're like, man, my car's overheating, I don't know what the issue is, and I check the car and I'm like, hey, you know what? I know the water's leaking out of your radiator and you think it's a radiator, but it's actually your head gasket. Now, most likely the customer's gonna ask me, why is it the head gasket? Why is it not the radiator? All I see is water coming from this. I don't wanna get charged for something else. Now, as a technician or as a shop owner, it's my job to inform the customer to let him know what we're doing and how the engine works so he can feel comfortable about getting the repairs on his car. But if the mechanic doesn't want to answer those questions, more than likely he's full of trash. So I always tell people, hey, look, we have to repair your head gasket because all the pressure that's coming out of your cylinders is blowing into your coolant system and it's pushing out the water, and little by little as it pushes it out, it doesn't have enough to cycle through your engine, and that's why your car's overheating. So we need to fix this. We pressure tested your radiator, it's good to go, but as long as we fix this head gasket, you'll be good to go. So as long as they can give you some sort of explanation, especially when you have Mitchell On Demand or AllData, we could send you little graphs, pictures, as well as sometimes videos explaining what's currently wrong with your car to help educate the customer. But if you don't ask enough questions, you're gonna be left hanging. They're just gonna assume you don't know anything, and you're just gonna start throwing stuff on there. So if they say, I need a water pump, say why. Oh, you also need this gasket. Why do I need this gasket? The other one's not good. He may tell you, we have to do this because we want to make sure it's a good seal. There's nothing wrong with asking questions. I always recommend people asking a bajillion questions because this way it'll keep the mechanic on his toes. Another tip that will help you from getting screwed is using Google. You're gonna laugh at this, but back in the day, if I needed parts or to get parts time to do any type of repairs, I had to do it the old school way. So I had to either call, ask them if they had any parts are available. I even had to fax some stuff into some dealerships with part numbers just to see if they had it in stock. But one check on Google, you could find out, hey, he's charging me $400 for this water pump, but O'Reilly's, AutoZone, and everybody else has it for 120 bucks. Why is that? And you can confront your mechanic with this. Also, when it comes to book time is the estimated repair times for your repairs. And a lot of this stuff is public info that's all over the internet. So if you type in, how to replace a water pump on a Dodge Caravan, it'll pop up with something random, 3.6 hours, whatever else, and it'll tell you a lot of the parts you need to have if you're in order to do that. And also, there's tons of videos all over YouTube that have this exact information. So you can see what they're doing, how they're doing it, and how long it's gonna take. So if the mechanic online says it's about 3.5 hours, and he wants to charge you 8.5 hours, there's probably something wrong. You should probably ask a question. Next tip is always ask for your parts. This is very important. If I fix your brake pads, I put the old brake pads in the box and I leave them in your trunk. I do the water pump, I put the pump inside the box, I put it in your trunk. I always do this because I want the customer to know that I replaced the part on their car. Unfortunately, a lot of mechanics don't do this, and people can't see from the top of their engine bay when they see what you're working on. Like I remember I did an oil pan gasket, motor mounts, and a few other things. We charged this guy like 800 bucks, and he looked down on his motor and it was all dusty. So he called up his credit card company and tried to back charge me for repairs. And I called him, I was like, why are you back charging me for the repairs? He goes, the top of my engine's all covered in dust. You didn't do anything, you lied. I'm like, sir, look underneath your car. The 2 hydraulic motor mounts are brand new. You can see the stickers on them. The oil pan gasket, you can literally see. We cleaned off your oil pan, repainted it, we put it back on there. And all the other little things we added on there with the repair order, you could physically see all these things. And so once I told him he could drive it over here and we could lift it on the rack and we could show him. And so we showed him everything there. And I also said, there's parts in your trunk. Look in your trunk, and he saw that we had the old mounts and the other stuff, and so he called back his credit card company, got us taken care of. But these are some of the things that if you're a good mechanic and you know basically all the tricks of the trade, you should do this. Now, unfortunately, there are some parts that have what's called a core. So like when I do an AC condenser or an AC compressor, I have to give them the old AC compressor. So usually what I do is I like to take pictures and videos as I'm doing the repairs. Now, you could always ask your mechanic for pictures or videos while you're doing repairs. Most of them won't mind doing it. If they do, if they're too busy, just be patient with them. Just as long as they give them to you, that's okay. But if they flat out decline or refuse it, then I would walk away. Back in the day, my old system on AllData, we could literally put you on there. You can log in and you could see where your car's at. Like we order parts, we're fixing it. And once we start fixing it, we're taking pictures of like, oh, we took your heads off. We're doing the head gaskets. Here's your new head. Here's the cylinder gaskets, blah, blah, blah. We keep all the receipts together. And then once the customer comes, we show them the pictures. We tell them what we do. We have them fire up the car. They drive it on, make sure they're good, and then they pay their bill. And so that's kind of the way I did it, just to alleviate the headache. But in all honesty, that's one of the main reasons why I got out of auto repair, is because even if I was being 100% honest, people thought you were lying just because you were a mechanic shop. I used to have people, come in, cars broken down, we'd stay all night to fix them, and then the people would just complain and complain and complain. I can't tell you how many times I've told people what the problem in their car was, and they told me, no, that's not it. The reason why I use the radiator and the head gasket thing all the time is because that's probably the number one thing that happens here in Vegas. It gets 115 degrees. People blow their head gaskets, and usually when they blow their head gaskets, they blow their radiators as well. So they always think that all they need is a radiator, they don't need the head gasket. So I make everybody sign a piece of paper stating, I'm going to go ahead and fix your radiator, but we diagnosed this problem as a head gasket. We are not, being held liable if the head gasket is the issue. We let them drive away. You know what happens? A day later, they come back, my car's overheating. You lied to me. You ripped me off. And I've told them, no, I told you the head gasket was bad. I didn't want you to drive away. You kept calling me a liar, and I was trying to con you out of money. And you forced me to replace the radiator and not actually fix the root of all problems. And so it's a very common thing. I couldn't stand it. People always accuse us of lying. My favorite was, you broke that on purpose. Why would I break your car to keep it in here to maybe make $50? It's not worth my time. And so a lot of mechanics do get discouraged, but it's because there's a lot of shady mechanics out there that do this. That's why you see all these technicians leaving at record pace, because we have so many what's called callbacks or comebacks, where we fix a car and it comes back later for something else. And even though it's a completely separate option, or excuse me, a completely separate issue, the customer complains and complains, and the owner has to basically say, okay, let's go ahead and fix it again. And now the technician's losing money, the owner's losing money, and the customer thinks that the mechanic shop is ripping them off. So there are two sides of this coin. But as long as you ask these questions, use your scanner, and double check some of the parts and the hourly rate on your actual repairs, you shouldn't have any problems. But I'd love to know in the comment section below, what are your thoughts and feelings of the actual automotive industry when it comes to auto repair? Have you been burned? Family members, friends? The craziest thing I heard is this guy charged my friend $6,000 for a brand new LS1 motor, and when he got into his car, they took his aluminum LS that he basically threw rot in, and they put a cast iron 5.3 out of a Silverado in there and just changed the intake. It was absolutely hilarious, but he drove it for 6 months before he figured it out. So there's a lot of people out there that do some really crazy stuff, so please in the comment section, let me know your stories. I'd love to hear them. Also, if you're new to my channel, please like and subscribe if you learned anything. We got a lot of really great videos. We got our new shop opening up here soon. I just put a down payment on the actual building, so I'm going to show you guys. It's going to be insane. I'm super stoked. We got an amazing SEMA build coming up as well. Also, please go to our website, automotivelife.com. We do weekly Q&A sessions with me and myself. If you want to join any classes, you want to learn how to be a dealer, you want to work on cars, open up auto repair shop, rental car company, we do it all. Also, follow me on Instagram at Lucky Lopez, and we'll see you next video.